I know you heard me on the radio. Flexing, she loved the sound of my voice, it's the best thing. Daydreaming of the jazz all day. Pick up the phone late night with Larry K. I know you heard me on the radio. Flexing, she loved the sound of my voice, it's the best thing. Daydreaming of the jazz all day. Pick up the phone late night with Larry K.
Fury fam, welcome to another episode of Phin-Addict Fury with your host, Larry K. Sorry I couldn't be with my normal live viewers on TD Fin's Talks channel last Wednesday at 8. My bad, it was that TD was traveling, he was doing a little something and he had to cancel, so we had to postpone that show. Hopefully I'll be back with you live soon on my Wednesday night time slot. But nonetheless, I wanted to hop on and just talk a little bit about free agency, talk a little bit about what's going on with the Fins, and give you some content, even though, hey, it's the off season, it's the dog days of the off season, and we're kind of going through it. But I wanted to touch base with you guys. I know Fury fam loves content. Fury fam likes to talk about things. So hit me in the comments with your comments on what I'm talking about. And if you haven't already, just take 2 seconds right now, 2 seconds. Click that like button down beneath and do me a favor, smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. We are in a marathon sprint to get to 1,000 subscribers before the season starts, and we're close to that goal. I mean, we have been grinding, Fury fam. We are on it. Share this video, share the video with your friends, post the video on your favorite Dolphins forums and your favorite Dolphins pages. Let's get to 1,000 subscribers. If you like this content, if you just like sports content, if you like Dolphins content, do me a favor and just smash the subscribe button. You'll get some cool content from me every now and again. And pretty often, especially during the season. So if you like any kind of sports content, you like generally, objectivity, which is what we try to be here on this channel, go ahead and smash the subscribe button. Special thank you to all the new subscribers who have subscribed with my last Rant video. I looked because I was glancing at my Dan Marino picture where I stand in front of when I do my off the hinge rants. My last one was about a situation that is back in the news today, which we all know. I was talking about Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson was not indicted by the grand jury, and so now today it is announced that he is going to be a Cleveland Brown. There was 3 first-round picks, some other picks, and Deshaun Watson is now a Cleveland Brown. You have to sit there and you have to think, look, the Browns are about at our level. They were on the cusp of the playoffs last year, just like we were. The Browns made a little bit of a playoff run a couple years ago. I know they lost some pieces, but the Browns, you have to think, are in a pretty decent position because they're basically like where we are, and now you add a franchise-changing, a generational quarterback, a guaranteed top 10, probably top 5 quarterback in Deshaun Watson. Now, I understand hindsight is 20/20. Somebody said it just recently on my last video. They made the comment, look, Larry, I can't hold it against Ross, as I call him, Magoo. I can't hold it against Magoo because hindsight's always 20/20. We didn't know if he was going to have criminal charges or not, and we didn't know how that was going to affect his ability to play for us. Giving up all those picks with uncertainty was not really a wise decision. How can you criticize him now? That's a valid point. And because this channel is objective and because I'm trying to stay in the middle and be real, I have to acknowledge that hindsight is 20/20, and it is a valid point to say that, look, maybe he didn't know where this was going to go and he couldn't take the risk. But I'll say this, right? Getting acquitted at trial where there's a petit jury, that's one thing, right? Because the burden of proof at trial is beyond a reasonable doubt. It's really, really hard to convict somebody at trial of a crime. But grand jury is only probable cause. It's only as much as the police need to arrest you. That's it. Grand jury just has to find that it's likely that it happened. Probable cause is all they need, that it probably happened. It's all they need to indict somebody. And the rules of evidence are relaxed and all these other things. And so you'd have to think, and I don't know this for a fact, and no one knows this for a fact, you'd have to think that NFL franchises, with all their wealth of knowledge, all their resources, all their access, all their intelligent minds that work in these all-league offices and these franchise offices, you'd have to think that within the initial civil complaints and somewhere out there in the realm of what was available as far as information, that if these allegations were not even going to amount to probable cause before a grand jury, they weren't even going to reach that bar criminally, you would think that teams would have some inkling of that. You would think that teams would think, to some extent, would know that it was likely that there were not going to be criminal charges. Now, I'm not excusing Deshaun Watson's interactions. I'm not excusing Deshaun Watson's behavior. I'm not saying that some of the civil allegations don't amount to the civil burden of proof, which is a preponderance of the evidence. He probably shouldn't have put himself in those situations. But at the same time, allegations are allegations. And we don't even know what's going to come of these allegations in civil court. So we can't just jump to conclusions on either side, right? We can't jump to conclusions and say he's definitely guilty, and we can't jump to conclusions and say he definitely didn't do anything disrespectful or anything problematic. But we can say that he is now cleared criminally, and that he is a Cleveland Brown, and that the Miami Dolphins had a chance last year when the Miami Dolphins had a good coach, a really solid defense, were on a good trajectory. They had a chance where the only place Deshaun Watson wanted to play, the only place he would even go or even talk to was the Miami Dolphins. They cornered the market. They could have had him, and Magoo stepped in, and Magoo said no. Now, you can say hindsight is 20/20, but isn't it interesting that Magoo has decided not to pursue him at all, even now that we know that there's no criminal charges? Magoo's still not pursuing him. Not only that, Magoo fired Brian Flores and hired a coach who he has now packaged up to be like a Tua whisperer who's going to take Tua to the next level. Whether that's true or not, whether McDaniel ever said that, we don't know. But that's definitely how Magoo and Greer and Garfunkel and the Miami Dolphins franchise is packaging this and marketing this. So, yes, it was hindsight's 20/20, but he didn't even bother to inquire again once he was cleared. It shows that the firing of Flores was a choice between Tua and Flores and maybe even Watson, and it was a choice for Tua. And Magoo and Ross and Greer, they're going to have to live and die with that. And I hope Tua's great. I hope Tua finds a ton of success, and I hope we make the playoffs and win a Super Bowl with him, because if not, Ross is really going to go down as just a huge blunder after blunder owner who just can't get it right. And if Cleveland goes on to win, if Cleveland goes to AFC championships, if Cleveland wins a Super Bowl or is a contender year in, year out for the next 10 years, well, it's even compounding even more the failures of Stephen Ross and of this regime. I do think Stephen Ross wasn't even that concerned about what was true, what was not, wasn't that concerned about criminal charges. He was trying to get Watson to settle the civil stuff. And I think what happened is he's not looking at the football field. He's not looking at football decisions. As usual, he's looking at the glitz, the glamour, the outside, not the substance. And he's saying, hey, Tua's popular. There's a lot of Tua-neers out here. They're obsessed with Tua. They do anything for Tua. They care more about Tua being on the team, being the starter, than winning. We could go 6-10 every year as long as Tua's the starter, and these people would love it. But on the other hand, if I bring Watson in, there's going to be all kinds of pushback, all kinds of anger, all kinds of fury. I don't want it. So Ross went with what he wanted to go with. He made the decision. That's in the books. It is what it is. We live with that, and that's pretty much the last. I mean, look, to say that I'm not going to talk about it as the season goes on, especially, hey, if Tua is better than Watson, I'll sit here and say I'm wrong, and we'll talk about it. And if Watson plays much better than Tua and the Browns go better, we'll touch on it. But it's not Dolphins news at this point, is it, right? It's NFL news. So let's move on to our actual free agent signings. And I just wanted to touch base on that news because it's not everybody's mind. To act like it's not everybody's mind, is BS. And if you're mad at me because I brought it up, or you want to call me a negative fan, or you want to say I'm no fun, go ahead, comment it. It's fine. But that's not really what I'm doing here. I'm bringing up what's on everybody's mind, okay, today, as Fitz. But look, let's talk about our free agent signings, right? So number one, we re-signed Gesicki, but we re-signed him to a franchise tag. Let's hope we can actually get a long-term deal done. I'm suspicious of that. I think somebody in that front office wants him to prove himself. I'm wondering if, based on what Omar Kelly's been saying, and Omar Kelly's been kind of a hater on Gesicki from jump. He doesn't think he's good enough because he can't block in line. He's not a blocking tight end. Omar's saying, well, this is just a way for the Dolphins to trade him. I'm not sure I buy that. We'll see pretty soon. I think what might have happened is I think Chris Greer has that mentality because Greer seems to be somebody who doesn't want to pay guys if he doesn't think they fit the mold exactly how he wants, etc. I could see somebody like Chris Greer. I think he was ready to move on from X. And I think he's maybe ready to move on from Gesicki, but I could see Mike McDaniel, somebody who's an innovator, somebody who wants an explosive offense. I could see Mike McDaniel saying, whoa, let's hold on to him at least for a year. Let me show you what I could do with him. And I'm thinking that perhaps McDaniel was behind bringing Gesicki back on the franchise tag. But it's interesting because a lot of other players that we picked up are playing on these 1 year or short-term deals, and it makes you think, doesn't it? It makes you think. Is this franchise doing what I was worried about, which is not really giving McDaniel a fair shake, but only giving Tua 1 more year, 2 max, with McDaniel to prove himself? And if Tua is not the answer, they get rid of McDaniel too. They throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm wondering. But we will see. And I don't have the answers to that. No one does. I don't know. But so we bring him back. We bring Ogbah back. Bringing Ogbah back was a huge good signing. We are constantly letting guys like Gesicki and Ogbah walk in this franchise over the last 10, 20 years. We grow our homegrown talent. They become Miami Dolphins. They could be franchise-type players, and then we let them walk because we don't want to pay them. And we bring in somebody else's throwaway free agents and think that's going to work. So it's great, and I will say it, it's great that Miami has chosen now to bring back 2 key players who they raised here in Miami who can continue to make impacts on defense and on offense. I'm thrilled with that. Now let's move on to the sign. And Landon Roberts. I think Landon Roberts, look, he's not the best cover guy. He's not the best outside guy, but he plugs those holes very well. He's made some impact plays in the backfield. He's a good gap plugger. I like him. I think that was a good signing as well. But let's talk about the guys from the outside. So first up is Raheem Mostert. Running back. And interesting, when we talk about McDaniel, one thing I've said is, and a lot of us have said this, a lot of fans know, Fury fam, you know this. A lot of things people are saying, they keep hyping up this Tua thing. McDaniel's going to make Tua great. McDaniel's going to, bring Tua to the next level. We got the right coach for Tua, blah, 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 blah. But the fact is, McDaniel really is an innovator, more so in the realm of the running game, right? The running game is really what propels McDaniel. It's really where he's found his success, and that's kind of where his bread and butter is. So it's interesting that he signed 2 kind of explosive running backs in this round of free agency. But it's also interesting because Raheem Mostert was a 49er running back, right? And I always say, and I was saying recently, that whenever you change a regime, whether it's a positive move, a negative move, it doesn't matter. Whenever you change a regime, it's not going to be a light switch night and day that you're going to go from one end of the spectrum to another, unless a really rare case happens, like when Tony Sperano came in here and we wound up with Chad Pennington in our laps because quarterback matters and the Wildcat. But they always want to bring in their guys, and they start bringing in guys that they're familiar with, and they start turning over the roster to get to their guys. And we see that McDaniel has already brought in a 49ers running back. Now, Mostert is a good player. He led their 49ers in 2019 in rushing yards. He could really change the running back room, and he will change the running back room in a big way. But again, 1 year deal, so it's just kind of this tryout deal, $3.1 million. I mean, I'm not against it. We want solid running backs. We want good running backs. Am I more of the opinion maybe we should draft a guy? Maybe, but it's a big risk when you draft guys. At the same time, signing them to big deals is a risk for 1 year, but it seems like McDaniel wants to make sure he has running backs that he trusts, that he likes to fit his system, and he's not going to just settle for somebody we draft or the current room we have or any kind of bargain basement thing, and I got to respect that. The other signing was Chase Edmonds at running back. Now that's a 2-year contract, and that's worth $12.6 million. So that's a bigger deal, and he's an explosive, very good football player. The just kind of like Tua, one of the issues with him is, can he stay healthy, right? If he can't stay on the field, and we've had this problem with Parker, right? A lot of people want to get rid of Parker because they say despite how he can go up for the ball, despite how he makes an impact on the game when he's there are simply too many games where Parker is not in the game because he can't stay healthy. And so with Edmonds, it's another thing. I have a buddy who's a Cardinals fan. He's like, hey, good for you. He's a good player if he can stay healthy. So, it's just kind of interesting with him. And I think, though, it just shows that it shows where McDaniel is going with this thing. It shows where he's going with this thing. And he's trying to really bolster the running game, which I think is a good strategy. Now we signed some other free agents, and I have my notes here that I'm referencing. But we signed also Cedric Wilson from Dallas. Now he was down on the list behind their CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. So it's not like he was this huge headline, but the guy was a solid receiver for them. By all indications, he's somebody who gets a good amount of separation, and we are lacking that to an extent. Outside of Waddle, we really don't have receivers who consistently get separated. Now, I love Parker, and I really like Gesicki, but Gesicki's more of a mismatch type guy who makes, highlight reel catches, and he's a leader, I think. He's an explosive play guy. And Parker's a guy who just out-muscles corners and goes up and gets the ball, and I think he's an important asset on the outside. But other than Waddle, we don't have a receiver who's consistently and constantly getting separation, especially downfield. And I think Wilson was a good investment with regard to that. Now, he signed a 3-year, $22 million contract, but $12.75 million is guaranteed on his contract. Again, it's weird, though. We signed these running backs to lower deals and these wide receivers to longer deals. I guess wide receivers have a longer shelf life. But it just goes to show, Greer's philosophy. I mean, he tends to be signing these wideouts every year to these bigger deals, and whether or not they ever pan out is a whole different story. And it's just kind of interesting. With Fuller last year, it's like, I don't know. I think it's a good signing, but it's just interesting how we seem to invest a little more there. But we're loading up. We're tooling the offense. We're keeping our defense intact, it looks like. And we're retooling our offense to make it seem it looks more explosive. There's more weapons around Tua, which I think is a big part of McDaniel's plan and his agenda. So it seems like McDaniel is having an impact early on free agents, which I think is a good thing. You can't downplay that. Again, I like McDaniel. I think I watched, and I remember some people were saying when I was on live that I should watch the McDaniel interview on Pro Football Talk with Mike Florio and Chris Sims, and I have to say they were saying he was weird. I have to say he still comes off as authentic, and he was authentic in his opening presser, and I think he really does mean what he says. I think he's a trustworthy guy. I think he's an honest guy. But to some people's points, whether he's honest and genuine or not, the fact is, he's a weird guy. He's a little weird, man. And it remains to be seen whether, sometimes you get a weird guy in, a support role or an assistant coach, and everybody loves him because he's, endearing, because he's not the face of it. He's not the general in the room. And it could change when you're the face of the franchise. You are doing the press conferences every week, after every game, before every game. You are in charge of everything going on in that locker room. You're the field general on game day. It just changes a little. And I like him. I'm curious. I'm excited. But he is a little weird. He's just weird, though. So, anyway, though, despite all that, I'm glad that we're kind of seem to be building an offense around a system that he thinks he can implement and a system that he thinks will be a good one for us. And that that's the only thing we could do at this point. So I'm glad that Miami seems to be doing that. We signed Connor Williams, a guard who was a starter for a couple seasons. He's a solid starter as far as I know. He's signing a 2-year deal worth $14 million, $7.5 million of which is guaranteed. I think it's a good signing. I have a feeling, because I see a lot of people already complaining about this. A lot of people are complaining, oh, we're not signing any O-linemen. These O-linemen are going to the Jets, and these O-linemen are going here. And I think that Miami is planning to invest in O-linemen in the draft. And so Williams is a solid signing. We needed a guard, right? This is a good, solid guard. And he's going to sit in there. He can plug and play. This might be the end of Austin Jackson. Hopefully that experiment might finally be over. And we can start fresh. Or maybe he could be a backup at guard. But we needed that strong guard. So I'm happy with that sign. But what I'm a little suspicious about, and if you're a Miami Dolphins fan, you should probably be suspicious of it too, is if there's one thing Miami has shown they're really not good at, it's drafting O-linemen. Like, they're okay. They could draft probably a running back if they draft them higher. They could draft a wide receiver. They could draft defensive line. They could draft a corner, but Iggy aside right now. But if there's one thing they don't seem good at, it's O-line. So I've been saying that they should be paying free agents for the O-line because they know what they're getting. And then draft the skill guys in the draft. They seem to be signing the skill guys and waiting to draft the O-line. And if history is any indicator, then that's a bad strategy for this franchise. Because if they're going to go out and try to sign guys, only one guy, and it's a good signing. Connor Williams is a good signing. We should have had more of those. If they're only going to sign Connor Williams and they're going to do everything in the draft again, and if they don't do well in the draft, or it's the same excuse that offensive linemen need time to develop and need time to get acclimated to the speed of the game in the NFL, and we have another bad O-line, that's really not good. And you know why it's also not good? Because the two ears are going to just keep blaming the O-line again. I don't know about this draft the O-line strategy. So let's hope we get at least one more solid free agent signing on the O-line. But, it's starting to get to a point where the best ones are gone. But Connor Williams is an O-line signing, and it's a good one. So I'm happy with that. Re-signed Preston Williams. Preston Williams showed flashes early. He never seemed to have great hands early on in his career. I thought he didn't have good hands. People were so mad at me because he was the next big thing. I like him. I don't know if he's a step slower because of the injury, but he didn't make a huge impact when he came back from injury last year. It's kind of another tryout. He's a homegrown kid. We've had him now for a while. We drafted him. He's a Miami Dolphin. That's where he started in the NFL. We're trying to see if he pans out. He's made impact plays for us in the past. He fits like a kind of tall, playmaking mode of receiver, but I don't know that he can really make an impact. So I'm curious to see what happens with him. But we did re-sign him for now. Duke Riley, we signed. He was already with us, so he's another decent piece that we have. Nothing crazy, nothing really moves the needle positively or negatively with Riley. And that's basically where we are at this juncture. I thought we signed a corner too, but I'm not seeing that here. But look, what do I think about Miami now with these signings? And we did. So who did we sign? We also signed Keon Crossan, who was a special teams guy, and he's a good special teams player. And we want to do good on special teams. I think our special teams last year took a big step back, and I think it hurt us in several games. I've said that special teams should be a priority. We need a good punter. We need a good kick returner. It hurt us last year that we didn't have those vital pieces, and especially because Sanders seemed to take a step back as well. When you don't have good special teams, that's a huge part of the game. People don't think about it all the time, but if you have bad special teams, if you have okay special teams serviceable, that's one thing. If you have noticeably bad special teams, it's going to hurt you. It's going to lose you games. And if you have noticeably good special teams, it's going to help you. It's going to win you games. So I'd like to go back to having a good special teams unit the way we used to under Rizzi when we had, Sanders had his great year and all those other things. Let's see what happens going forward here. Alec Ingold, he's a fullback. And you guys already know I love that. I love a fullback. Again, it's another reason why I'm excited to see what McDaniel does with the offense, because fullbacks are something I've loved. I love the running game. I think when you set the tone with the running game, a lot of things feed off of that. Football is still a game that's won in the trenches, although the current NFL is very quarterback heavy. There's an emphasis on the quarterback. That's why I'm still pounding the pavement to say you need a quarterback, a game-changing franchise, generational quarterback. But if Miami's not going to get that memo, and they're not going to this year, then that's okay. So let's go for the run game then. The only other way to win in this league is to have just a really, really good run game that props that up. And McDaniel has had success. He did that with Jimmy Garoppolo in San Francisco just recently. So now you get these two impactful running backs, especially if they can stay on the field. You get a fullback. And now he's not, just because he's got a fullback doesn't mean he's running old school 1972, Larry Zonka, Jim Kick, Mercury Morris, punch in the face, three yards in a cloud of dust, or Zonka just plowing over people and whatever. But the fullback is another piece that can be a lead blocker, that can also go out for passes, that can help to block on screens and things of that nature. And so I think you're going to see not only a robust run game with a fullback, with fresh running backs rotating into the game with varied skill sets, but you're also going to see an innovative run game, a really innovative run game that is new. So we are not only going to emphasize the run game, but we're not going to emphasize like an old school run game. We're going to emphasize an innovative run game, which if you pay attention to the league, every 5 or 4 or 6 type years that come around, somebody innovates the game, especially on the offensive side of the ball, and all of a sudden everybody in the league adjusts. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not even saying it's likely to happen, but I will say that the way McDaniel is with his whole unique, kind of crazy persona and everything that's said about him, and his emphasis on the run game and the way he seems to speak about evolving and adapting to his players, to new situations, I wouldn't be surprised if McDaniel develops a run attack that starts to change the trajectory of the league, that becomes something people have to really take note of and really gives us an advantage on the field. I would not be surprised if that happens. Now, that might not happen. But if it does happen, I wouldn't be surprised. And I hope it does happen, because I think that's probably our best chance to really make noise this year and really have an impact and really have a chance this year to do the things we want to do and to be contenders the way that we want to be contenders. So I'm really hoping that he can make that impact. It looks like the signings are geared towards this explosive, innovative offense. We got a wide receiver who can get separation. We got 2 running backs. One he's familiar with, who was a solid running back, especially 2 years ago, and one who is an explosive player and can be a really explosive player if he can stay on the field. And we got the fullback, who I think is going to lay some of the groundwork. And then we kept guys like Gesicki, who's, you get these guys on the field at once, all these explosive players that can attack you from every angle. And all you need Tua to do is drop back and make a quick read and get the ball where it needs to go. You have a chance to have a really threatening, really, complicated, formidable offense in this league. And I guess if I have a final thought on everything, I think we are really trying to build this formidable offense with all these weapons that defenses have to account for. And we're also trying to keep our successful, stout defense intact. Whether this strategy works is anybody's guess. Again, I'm suspicious of looking like we're trying to build the O-line through the draft when our track record has been terrible. And if the O-line is still loose and the quarterback is still inconsistent, then it's really not going to matter how many weapons we have. We're still just going to be just good enough to be okay, but not quite contenders. And I don't think anybody wants that at this point. I think everybody's tired of that. But I definitely don't think we're going to be terrible. But that's the Miami Dolphins. We're always in the middle. I hope that this strategy works. I hope we hit on some guys for the O-line. I think the free agent signing on the O-line is important. I hope Tua gets better. I hope having these players around him elevates his play. And, I think despite whatever's going on with him or what you think of him, I think he has a plan. He's serious about the plan. He's able to execute the plan. The front office is working with him to implement the plan. And so there is some hope here that at least something is being attempted. Whether it's going to work or not, we will see. But something is being attempted that does make sense, that can work, and that can work in a good way. So let's see what happens. That's my update for the end or mid-March. I'll see you guys again very soon and give you, as more news rolls in, as more signings happen, as we get closer to the draft, we'll touch base again. As always, I really appreciate everybody who watches. I really appreciate all the Fury fam. I appreciate everybody vibing out to the intro, outro. I appreciate everybody commenting whether you agree or disagree. I try to interact as much as I can down there. Please smash that like button if you like sports content, if you like Miami Dolphins content, if you just want to do me a favor. And please smash the subscribe button. Join the Fury fam. We are racing towards 1,000. It's been a crazy year, and because of you guys and you guys constantly engaging and you guys showing me love, we have made such a leap. I will hopefully see you on TD Finns Talks channel this Wednesday at 8. I also have some other cool things in the works for you guys. I've talked to some other individuals. We might start doing some live shows, another spin-off show on this channel about the Dolphins and about the NFL in general. So stay tuned. everybody, hope you have nice weather where you are. In Jersey right now, the weather's beautiful. Enjoy your weekends, enjoy the weather, and keep rooting and hoping for the Fins. And I'll talk to everybody very, very soon. Larry K.
I know you heard me on the radio flexing. She loved the sound of my voice, it's the best thing. Daydream